you have tools that you utilize or that you could even recommend to people that you find that you go back to connect with empathy? Or if you're teaching children, I know that that was one of the things that you really held dear to you, was teaching children. How do you teach empathy?
With children, there's no limits. And what I mean is no limits in the amount of love, care, compassion, empathy, love that you can give. Spoil kids with love and just kindness as much as we can.
Okay, so a kid grabs a toy, hits another kid over the head with a toy.
No, I didn't mean it that way.
And says, how do you walk into that situation and teach them about empathy after that? Because I know as a parent,
Sure.
I definitely experienced that with my young one, where he was like, my toy, bam.
No, there's
prime
ways.
opportunity
No, you're
right
right,
there for teaching empathy.
Absolutely. And what I've done, at least in my experience, whether with my own child, and luckily I've been blessed with a child who never, she experienced others,
the other side of that,
but never her. And I actually had to help her help her respond by saying, you don't need to just stand quietly when somebody attacks you, because she's a girl and she's gonna turn into a woman, and knowing how cruel the world is to women, I want her to be able to defend herself, at least not be an instigator of violence, but be able to defend herself, to protect herself. But for kids who are the other way, what I've done when I was in school, after the incident, I would calmly talk with that child, even as little as 5 or 6 year old. These are the kindergartners, and I say, would you've liked to be hit the way you hit that other person? It's never too early to tell children to put themselves in other people's shoes, and I think that that's the base of it, right? For our audience listening and watching us, we underestimate the power that children do have at those young age to be able to learn and understand. They do understand, but we belittle them. We adults belittle them, saying, oh, he's just a kid. I've seen mothers protect and defend their abusive children to other children. Oh, she's just a child. Well, no, yes, they're a child, but you need to be able to communicate to them that behavior is not good and it's not acceptable. And the best way, again from my experience, is to make them feel how they would react if they were in the other's shoes. And 9 out of 10 times, I kid you not, the kid they may not have responded verbally or through a facial expression, but they calm down, because something clicks in their head where they say, well, yeah, I don't want that happening to me, so why would I do it to somebody else? Does it mean they're not going to repeat it again? Of course they will repeat it again, because that's part of their growing up, right? They're going to try and try and try multiple times before they learn to say that that's a good thing or not a good thing to do. So that's one practical advice. I also wanted to share, while we're talking so greatly about empathy, and it's a great, wonderful thing, I also want to warn people that it could also be very exhaustive or exhausting. Because what it does to an individual who's constantly understanding what others are going through, putting yourself in so many shoes, it does become painful, because there comes a time when you need to know where to stop. So we don't want to teach so much empathy or such great empathy that everybody starts feeling the goodness and the badness of all around, because that's it could become a burden on the souls that do have to. It's almost like carrying mountains on your shoulders. But at the same time, it's definitely a virtue or a principle. What is empathy? Is it a virtue? Is it a principle? Is it a value?
An attribute.
An attribute.
Yeah.
So definitely a great thing. But I think empathy combined with compassion, because compassion is What I'm kind of going through in the literature that I'm hearing is that compassion was a great thing, and it's still a great thing, right? But now there's more focus on empathy over compassion. I think there needs to be a fine balance, or kind of like a mutual agreement between the two, because you cannot be empathetic without being compassionate, and vice versa in a way too, because to be compassionate kind of takes away that burden that you will start feeling, because you'll feel sad and you'll feel either sorry or sad or happy or whatever the emotion is. You'll start sharing that with the community or the people with you, and empathy is kind of like the next level, where it will make you feel like, what would you do, how would you react if you were in that position. And so I think one without the other is going to be problematic, in my opinion. But having both of those work together and live within you, I think could make you, if there's anything close to a perfect person, then a perfect person, because you're living a life to the full capacity of being able to understand others, connect with others, but also do it in a compassionate, kind way, where you don't have to be mean about anything or anybody, to be who you are and be completely comfortable with. So I want to pick your thoughts. Do you agree or disagree with me on that?
I'm just laughing because, honest to goodness, Rangina, we just talked about that in last week's podcast. You haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it, no.
But it's almost word for word what Austin and I talked about.
There you go.
So yes, I wholeheartedly agree, because we can tend to, they call people empaths, who are constantly connected and feeling all of it. And it can begin to almost make you unwell, because it just weighs on you constantly, and it's the stress. And it's not just the bad, it's also the good. So you're just like constantly yo-yoing. But then if you can take that and connect and have the feeling, but then have compassion as well, it puts you back in that your space, right? That's where that healthy ego kind of comes in. It's like, I'm back to being me. I know I can put myself in your shoes and I can feel that, but now I can have compassion for whatever you're navigating, joyful, sorrowful, or otherwise. I can have compassion. Now we can all be in it together, but from our own healthy sense of self kind of space. And so, yes, it has to be that beautiful blend. So love that you brought that up.
I'm glad I could. Because I'm going through it, and it is taking a toll on me, to be quite honest. Constantly not pushing myself. I don't think I'm pushing myself, but constantly trying to understand where the other is coming from. And while that's a wonderful thing, it also makes you feel like, gosh, when am I going to stop understanding? You almost want to stop yourself. But I guess compassion doesn't only have to be for others. It can be for yourself too. That I deserve care too, and I deserve a break, if we may call it that, to be me. So thank you for bringing that up, because I never think of ego as a positive thing, but in this level, or at this level, sometimes you do need to be selfish or egotistic to be able to say, okay, this is enough. I cannot take it. And at the end, all it's about limits, right?
Yes.
We recognize and realize that we as human beings are limited, and recognizing those limits, but with empathy and with compassion, that all human beings are limited. No one is greater than the other. I think just having that simple understanding, I think, will solve so many problems of the world that we have today.
Yes, and we can't just put it out there for other people. and say, oh, I have empathy and compassion for you. I understand that you can only do so much, so I'm not going to hold you to more than that. But here I am. I can do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, at some point we have to be willing to be the example.
Yes.
And
Yes.
otherwise, we're talking out both sides of our mouth, right?
Absolutely.
That old saying. And so we don't, I know between you and I, we definitely don't desire to do that, but I don't think anyone really desires to do that. So if we're willing to hold empathy for ourselves and compassion and take that time to just shut it down and relax, I think there's some benefit to that.